was engaged elsewhere. "I'm here for my best friend's wedding." "A real Sicilian wedding? Oh, that's so romantic. I saw that scene in The Godfather. All that dancing and family and friends. Fabulous. And the Italians are so good with children, of course." The woman threw a disapproving look at the passenger behind them, who had read her book throughout the flight, and ignored her fractious toddler. Family is everything to them. Laurel stuffed the book in her bag and undid her seatbelt, suddenly desperate to escape from the conversation. "You've been so kind. Sorry I've been such boring company on this flight. If you'll excuse me, I have to go." "Oh, no, dear, you can't leave your seat yet. Didn't you hear the announcement? There's someone important on the plane, some VIP or other. Apparently they have to leave before the rest of us." Peering past Laurel out of the window, the woman gave an excited gasp. "Oh, just look at that! 3 cars with blacked-out windows have just pulled up. And those men look like bodyguards. And, oh, my, you have to look, dear. It's like something out of a movie. I swear they've guns. And the most gorgeous man you've ever seen has just stepped onto the tarmac. He's got to be at least 6'3", and spectacular to look at." Man? No. She wasn't expecting a man. She wasn't expecting anyone. To avoid an unwanted reception committee, she'd told no one which flight she would be on. Her chest felt ominously tight, and suddenly she wished she'd kept her asthma inhaler with her, instead of putting it in her bag in the overhead locker. An invisible force drew her head round, and she found herself looking out of the window. He stood on the tarmac, his eyes obscured by a pair of aviator sunglasses, his attention apparently fixed on the commercial aircraft that had just taxied to a halt. The fact that he was allowed such unprecedented access to the runway said a great deal for the influence he wielded. No other civilian would have been extended such a privilege. But this man wasn't just anyone. He was a Ferrara, a member of one of the oldest and most powerful families in Sicily. Typical, Laurel thought. When you want him, he's nowhere to be seen, and when you don't... Her kindly neighbour craned her neck to get a better look. "Who do you think he is? They don't have a royal family, do they? Must be someone important if he can skip customs and just drive onto the runway. And what sort of man needs all that security? I wonder who he's meeting." "Me." Laurel rose to her feet with all the enthusiasm of a condemned man preparing to walk to the gallows. "His name is Cristiano Domenico Ferrara, and he's my husband. Mistake number 2, she thought numbly. But not for much longer. She was about to become an ex-wife. A wedding and a divorce in the same trip, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. She wondered about that saying. What was good about killing 2 birds? "I hope you have a really nice holiday in Sicily. Make sure you try the granita. It's the best." Ignoring the worried look of her kindly neighbour, Laurel removed her bag from the overhead locker and walked down the aisle to the front of the plane, grateful that she'd worn heels. There was something about high heels that gave you confidence in a tight situation, and she was definitely in a tight situation. Passengers whispered and stared, but Laurel was barely aware of them. She was too busy wondering how she could get through the next few days. It would be the biggest test of her life, and she had a feeling it was going to take more than a pair of killer heels to see her safely through it. Stubborn, arrogant, controlling. Why had he come to meet her? Was he punishing her or himself? The pilot hovered at the top of the metal steps. "Signora Ferrara, we had no idea we had the pleasure of your company on board." His forehead was shiny with sweat, and he cast a nervous glance towards the formidable welcoming committee assembled on the tarmac. "You should have made yourself known." "I didn't want to be known." His fawning attention was uncomfortable to witness. "I hope you enjoyed your flight with us today." The journey couldn't have been more painful if she'd been tied to a cart and dragged back to Sicily.